Weight loss drugs are bringing down the country's obesity rate, a study shows. I saw this headline and I lost my mind. I make a lot of videos about obesity on this channel because I spent 90% of my life obese. Here is me at I think I'm 10 in this picture and already obese. My family struggles with obesity. As a kid, one of my aunts was literally the largest person I had ever seen with my eyes. My partner struggled with obesity his entire life, and my grandma was actually obese before the obesity epidemic. So I am very interested in this topic. So I saw this headline and I lost my mind, because if this is true, this is actually the first time ever that anything like this has happened. America is getting skinny, guys. The obesity rate has gone down. And what's crazy about this is typically obesity rates go up, they do not go down. Countries all around the world have been becoming increasingly obese for decades now. The obesity rates literally always go up and they never really go down. We have been on a mad dash toward global obesity for 50 years at this point. So let's take a look. The number of people using injectable obesity treatments is increasing rapidly, and it is leading to declines in obesity, according to a new survey by the Gallup National Health and Wellbeing Index. The obesity rate dropped to 37% of US adults this year, down from a high of 39.9% 3 years ago, according to the survey. This is huge, if true. I honestly can't even really believe it, but you really got to give credit where credit is due. I was skeptical at first. I'm not a big pharma lover typically, and they have been making crazy bank on these drugs. Crazy bank. Novo Nordisk, the OG makers of Ozempic, now make more than the entire economy of Denmark. So yeah, when I hear that, I become very distrustful. There's also been a ton of extremely sketchy lobbying by both Novo Nordisk and Eli Lilly behind the scenes that maybe we'll talk about some other time. But yeah, there's a major campaign there that really highlights all the reasons that I hate big pharma. However, I am pro-science, and I got to put my feelings aside because this actually seems to be changing the world. It's been several years now. People don't seem to be dropping dead from what I can tell. There are many side effects, some of them extremely mild, some of them worse than that, but overall, it seems like it might be a good thing. It's actually kind of insane that we're living through this, because this is a major medical breakthrough. We don't know where it's going to go or what's going to happen, but it is truly changing the world. The survey found that the number of Americans taking drugs like semaglutide, which include the brands Ozempic and Wegovy, or tirzepatide under the brands Zepbound and Mounjaro for weight loss, more than doubled over the past year and a half. Wow, that's really fast. That's 12.4% of respondents taking the drugs, compared with 5.8% in February 2024 when Gallup first measured it. The new treatments are in a class of drugs known as GLP-1 agonists, and this generation of very effective GLP-1 agonists were approved for obesity treatment in the US market in 2021. I mean, yeah, in a few short years, sounds like in the past year, this has become the weight loss method in society. And I think more people than you realize are on these medications. I once made an entire video about this insane women's magazine, Women's World. Its whole thing was offering these absurd miracle cure crash diets to women between the age of 45 and 75. Lose 30 pounds in 2 weeks. Detox off 1 pound a day. Burn fat like a kid again. Automatic weight loss. That was their whole thing. Every single week, the cover was a new advertisement for a miracle weight loss cure. So you're standing at the grocery store checkout, minding your own business, while Women's World is trying to convince your mom, your grandma, your aunt that they have the miracle solution for weight loss. And I don't know how many years Women's World was doing this for in total, but I'm going to say something like 20 years straight. But now, you know what's crazy? Now, look at this. These are the most recent issues of Women's World magazine, okay? Most of them don't even mention weight loss at all. If they do, it's in a little tiny little blip there. This used to be the cover story every week for 20 years. Now they barely even mention it. Women's World, as far as I can tell, had to change their entire business model because their target demographic is on Ozempic now. They don't believe in miracle cures anymore because there's an actual drug that actually helps with weight loss now. Also, I'm using Ozempic interchangeably with GLP-1s because I feel like Ozempic is still the cultural way to refer to it, even though it's not really totally appropriate. But yeah, I have an immediate family member on them, so I've got to witness firsthand how they actually work or what they actually do. It is pretty wild. This person is no longer really hungry. They're no longer craving things quite the way they used to, and they're actually grappling with the fact that eating used to take up such a big part of their lives and they enjoyed it so much, but now they can't really do it the same way, and they just don't enjoy it the way they used to. And it's really interesting to me because, obviously we talk a lot about behavior change on this channel as well. In this case, it's like the medication is changing your behavior for you. Now, I realize everything I'm saying, I sound so complimentary. Like, it sounds like I'm just giving them so many compliments. This video is not me repping them. I don't want it to come off like that. I'm just very curious and interested in the topic, and it's such a huge topic that I feel like I need to cover it, especially when the obesity rate is suddenly going down. I feel like at that point, I have to say something, and my opinion is just, it's generally quite positive at this point. And like I said, as someone who spent their entire life obese and is very interested in health and science, to see something happen like this in our lifetime is actually kind of crazy. And it's interesting to think about how this is going to change the world, because it is going to change the world. It's already changing the world in many good ways and some bad. GLP-1s, which act on the brain and body's hormones to help suppress hunger and slow digestion, are considered a watershed in America's long struggle to address obesity and related diseases. These diseases have persistently and stubbornly increased through the decades through various dietary trends and public health interventions. Indeed, this index, which asked respondents, "Has a doctor or nurse ever told you that you have diabetes?" found a highest ever rate of diabetes at 13.8%. See, and that's a very important thing that needs to be mentioned too, though, okay? Diabetes is through the roof. Why? Where does that come from? Well, if we're talking about type 2 diabetes anyway, this is what's called a diet-related disease, as in what you eat majorly impacts your risk of getting it. Other diet-related diseases are obesity, obviously, cardiovascular disease, metabolic syndrome, certain cancers. So one potentially quite bad thing about these medications that definitely has to be mentioned is the fact that many people will now lose weight on them without actually changing their diet. That is not good. Maybe that sounds like the dream to someone listening to this, but it's not good, because now we'll have a bunch of people who are thinner, have lost weight, they're not in as much danger from obesity, but they're still consuming this stuff and they're still living the lifestyle that led to them being unhealthy in the first place. And we don't really know what the potential implications of that are or what that might look like in the future. So we could end up in a world where we have a lot of skinnier people who are really, really unhealthy, and unhealthy in new ways because they didn't make the lifestyle changes that they needed to. Here's the thing. We all got to pay the piper, okay? We cannot eat like shit and not exercise. It's just, if you want to live a good life, you got to do those two things. It's just a fact. When you're younger, you can get away with a lot. As you age, you can get away with less and less and less. I used to just want to be skinny when I was younger. I could not give a about my health. I just wanted to not be fat. But then at some point, after some soul searching, I realized, okay, I'm gonna actually have to be healthy, aren't I? I'm gonna actually have to commit to exercise forever, aren't I? And once you get to that point, you just start looking at things so much differently. Yeah, I feel like health at the individual level, at like the level of you and I, it's all behavior. And what I mean by that is we can't help if we're like genetically predisposed to certain diseases. You can't help if your mom drank alcohol and smoked cigarettes while she was pregnant with you. All that stuff has been set in the stars already, okay? It's done. But we can change our behavior. We can eat real food. We can exercise. We can get sleep. We can have healthy social connections. Do those 4 things, small things, and you're basically crushing it health-wise. But anyway, I do think that as a counterpoint to the people who like lose weight but stay behaviorally unhealthy, I think there are going to be a lot of people who use the drug to motivate a truly healthy lifestyle. I think just seeing that physical progress and being lighter is going to give thousands, if not millions of people the energy and excitement to really pursue a truly healthy lifestyle. Progress is the most motivating thing in the world. And I just think that the drug is going to spark lots of healthy lifestyles that would not have happened otherwise. And if most people who take the GLP-1s do this, then it just really is so crazy to think about what the world will be like in 10, 20, 30 years time. Like, we might actually live in a considerably healthier world for the first time in I don't even know how long. I mean, the food companies are already quaking. I covered a story last year about how the food industry is already in this like mad dash to develop GLP-1 friendly food products. And they're literally already working behind the scenes to try to bypass some of the GLP-1 mechanisms, because their whole thing is they make money by us eating more. So if we're not eating more, then they're not making the same kind of money that they want to be making. That's why in this video we talked about they're moving over to places like Nigeria. Ozempic could crush the junk food industry, but it is fighting back. As revolutionary new weight loss drugs turn consumers off ultra-processed foods, the industry is on the hunt for new products. I guess we'll see where that goes. The battle of big food and big pharma. Who will win? The survey is one indication that obesity rates may be starting to change, albeit slowly. Yeah, something I should have said earlier is that this doesn't guarantee that anything has actually happened yet. It doesn't guarantee that it's from the GLP-1s. Who knows? It could just be a blip, but kind of looks like it's from the GLP-1s. Since the drugs have come on the market, declines in obesity rates have been higher among those between ages 40 and 64, correlating with a higher reliance on GLP-1 medications for that age group. Use of the medications is highest among those ages 50 to 64, for example. And in that cohort, obesity rates dropped 5.0 points to 42.8%. Similarly, the survey found more women take the drugs, with corresponding greater weight loss compared with men too. Okay, first off, literally Women's World target demographic shown here to be largely using GLP-1s. These drugs have been a game changer for patients with obesity, but access to the drugs is still limited. Access is poised to become a bigger issue, says Dr. Fatima Cody Stanford, a Harvard University obesity specialist. I would say this correlation happened for those that had great coverage, but it's going to be pulled back, she says, noting that many private insurers, including the ones that cover most of her patients, are stopping coverage of GLP-1 medications as of next year. Without coverage, Stanford says injections will typically cost patients about $500 a month out of pocket. And while drug makers are working to bring potentially less expensive pill versions to market, for example, she says it likely still will put the treatments out of reach for many. Now, the drug companies are pushing very hard for this to be covered by insurance, and I kind of think it will end up happening. But there are definitely going to be a few years where rich people get Ozempic and poor people get body positivity, to quote South Park.
Insurance companies only cover the medication for diabetes, not for weight loss.
There has to be something you can do.
I'm gonna write you a prescription for Lizzo.
Lizzo?
She's a really good singer who talks about body positivity and just being happy with the way you look. Oh, and I'm afraid you'll have to be on Lizzo for the rest of your life.
No! Lizzo, no!
Which, I mean, it brings me to a really important thing that needs to be said here. You don't need a GLP-1 to lose weight. I keep hearing disturbing rhetoric implying that everyone needs a GLP-1 to lose weight. A lot of the time, it's the drug companies themselves that are implying this, which is a whole thing I'll talk about another time. But I also hear it a lot from like social media Ozempic influencers. I see so many clips of women who've lost a ton of weight on this drug turn around and then act like it was physically impossible for them to lose weight without it. The implication is always that, something was wrong with their body and that like the food noise that they had was not natural. And I just don't believe that to be true. I think there's always been this narrative that like weight loss is impossible, and now even more than ever. But I think if anything, this drug really just shows if you eat less, you'll lose weight. That is how it makes you lose weight. You eat less, right? Like it helps do the things that help you eat less, of course, in a major way. But all it is eating less. People have been losing weight naturally forever. It's very possible. So like if you're someone who's in the situation where you want to lose weight and you feel like now more than ever it's impossible, it's just not true. And even if GLP-1s were free, not everyone can take this drug. Not everyone wants to take this drug. Not everyone should take this drug, right? There are some serious side effects on there that prohibit quite a few people from taking it. So yeah, never lose hope. If you want to change, you can change. So yeah, I just hate that narrative. Whenever I see it, it makes me mad. But yeah, I just wanted to share my thoughts on this thing because this is a major development in the obesity world. But yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this video and I will see you in the next one.